The prophet Yusuf, aka Joseph as it's pronounced in English, is another prophet in the religion of Islam. Now, after doing several videos about other Islamic prophets, Joseph was the most requested. Welcome back, guys, to FTD Facts. My name is Leroy Kenton, and now we recently posted a video about the prophet Solomon in Islam, and some of you guys were like, that's not how you pronounce his name. But you know, like I said in that episode, I will be for the most part using the English pronunciations because I just feel more people are familiar with English names, me included, and whatever language though, we're still talking about the exact same person. But with that said, let's just jump into the facts about the prophet Joseph in the religion of Islam. Starting at number 10, Joseph was a young boy. He was very handsome, he was a happy guy, and he was really loved by his father. Now, one day he woke up and he was excited about a dream that he had, so he ran straight to his father and he was so excited to tell him about the dream. Now, Joseph's father, who was the prophet Jacob, he listened attentively because Joseph was actually sharing a dream that spoke about a fulfillment of a prophecy. And the words of Joseph are recorded in the Quran, and this is what he said. "O my father, verily I saw in a dream 11 stars and the sun and the moon, and I saw them prostrating themselves to me." And you can find that in Surah 12 verses 4. Now, sometime later, when Jacob's older sons, they asked for permission to take Joseph with them deep into the desert to go and play. There was a lot of fear that gripped Jacob's heart because from their words, like, he could tell that they were planning some kind of treacherous act, and he expressed his fear that a wolf was actually going to take Joseph. And Jacob said this, "Indeed, it saddens me that you should take him, and I fear that a wolf would eat him while you are of him unaware." And that's found in Quran, Surah 12, verses 13. Now, the brothers right away, they immediately knew that they would blame Joseph's disappearance on a wolf. And yeah, that was actually part of their plan to do that. So when they went out to the desert anyways, the brothers, they threw Joseph down into a well, and then the following day there was this caravan that was traveling to Egypt, and they approached the well, and Joseph was like really startled because a bucket was coming down towards him. But before it hit the water, he reached out, he grabbed onto the rope. So of course the guy who put the bucket into the well on a rope, he was surprised and he looked in, and the man called his companions to help him draw Joseph from the well and then brought him to Egypt. From there, let's talk about what happened in the house of Aziz. The chief minister, Aziz, he sensed immediately that this was no ordinary child, speaking about Joseph. And he took him to his home, one of the great mansions of Egypt, and this is what he said to his wife. "Make his residence comfortable. Perhaps he will benefit us, or we will adopt him as a son." And the passage goes on to say, "And thus we established Joseph in the land that we might teach him the interpretation of events. And Allah is predominant over his affairs, but most of the people do not know." And that's taken from Surah 12 verses 21. So then moving on from there, the prophet Joseph, he grew up as a man in the house of Aziz, and God granted him good judgment and knowledge. And the Quran states this in Surah 12 verses 22 when it says, "And when Joseph reached maturity, we gave him judgment and knowledge, and thus we reward the doers of good." We have made it to the halfway mark in this episode. I got 5 more facts to share about the prophet Joseph in Islam. But before I do that, just a reminder to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far. Also, it helps other people see our videos, so if you're really enjoying it, you want to continue helping FTD Facts grow, hit that like button 100%. Now, if this is your first time here to FTD Facts, you also want to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you'll be notified of our daily episodes. That's right, even in self-isolation, we're posting videos daily for you guys. Yeah, it don't stop. So join the FTD Facts family. Come back every single day to learn something new about our world, religions, cultures. And yeah, thanks for joining the family. So let's just get on with this episode now. We got a bunch more stuff to talk about. Let's talk a little bit more about Joseph and his interaction with the chief minister as well as his wife. So let's get into that right now. So the chief minister, Al-Aziz, he recognized these positive qualities in Joseph because, you know, he was a very loyal servant. Therefore, he put him in charge of all his household affairs. Now, all who knew him, including the wife of Al-Aziz, they acknowledged Joseph's beauty as well as his other positive qualities. And she herself, she watched Joseph grow into a handsome man, and she started becoming a lot more attracted to him over time. There's a statement in the Quran that says this: "And she, in whose house he was, sought to seduce him. She closed the door and said, 'Come you.' He said, 'I seek the refuge of Allah. Indeed, he is my master, who has made good my residence. Indeed, wrongdoers will not succeed.'" And that's from Surah 12 verses 23. So now things get really interesting in Joseph's life, because his refusal only increased her passion. And as he tried to escape, the wife of Aziz reached out, grabbed Joseph's shirt, and tore it from the back. And at that moment, the door opened and her husband walked in. So immediately, the wife, named Zuleika, she attempted to turn the whole situation around. And it's recorded in the Quran. And they both raced to the door, and she tore his shirt from the back, and they found her husband at the door. She said, "What is the recompense of one who intended evil for your wife, but that he be imprisoned, or a painful punishment?" Joseph said, "It was she who sought to seduce me." And a witness from her family testified, "If his shirt is torn from the front, then she has told the truth, and he is of the liars." That whole passage is taken from Surah 12 verses 25 to 26. So what does Prophet Joseph do? He does the only thing he can do at that time. He calls out to God for help, and he said, "My Lord, prison is more to my liking than that to which they invite me. And if you do not avert from me their plan, I might incline toward them and thus be of the ignorant." Those words are recorded in Surah 12 verses 33. So Joseph believed living in prison was preferable to living in the house of Al-Aziz, and God answered Joseph's prayer and rescued him. And the Quran goes on to say, "So his Lord responded to him and averted from him their plan. Indeed, he is the hearing, the knowing." Then it appeared to them after they had seen the signs that Al-Aziz should surely imprison him for a time. And that's taken from Surah 12 verses 34 to 35. So now as time passed by, during the 7 good years, Prophet Joseph, he prepared for the time of the famine that was coming to the land. So the drought and the famine that was prophesied by Joseph did not only affect the land of Egypt, but it also affected the surrounding lands, including the place where his father Jacob and his siblings lived. So of course, food supplies were limited, and among those who came to Egypt for provisions were Joseph's 10 older brothers, who he hadn't seen for years. Now when they saw him, they absolutely did not recognize him. But Joseph looked at him. Of course, he recognized him, and his heart wasn't filled with anger, though. It was actually filled with a longing for his father, as well as his brothers and his younger brother Benjamin. Now Joseph was hoping to encourage them to go back to their land and bring Benjamin. In fact, Joseph went as far as to say that without their younger brother, they would receive no provision at all. Now in the Quran, Surah 12 verses 60, it says, "But if you do not bring him to me, no measure will there be hereafter for you from me, nor will you approach me." And the final thing I want to share about the Prophet Joseph in Islam is that the family of the Prophet Jacob, they gathered all their belongings together and they traveled all the way to Egypt. Now Jacob, of course, was really eager to be reunited with his sons, of course his lost son Joseph as well, who he hadn't seen for years. And when they all went to Joseph, he was found sitting on a throne. And as I mentioned earlier on in this episode, when Joseph was describing his dream about the 11 stars, the sun and the moon to his father Jacob, well, the Quran actually wraps up the story of Joseph in the exact same way that it began, with the interpretation of the dream this time. So the 11 stars represented his brothers, the sun represented his father Jacob, and the moon represented his mother. Now in the passage in the Quran, it says, "He said, I will ask forgiveness for you from my Lord. Indeed, it is he who is the forgiving, the merciful." And when they entered upon Joseph, he took his parents to himself and said, "Enter Egypt, Allah willing, safe and secure." And he raised his parents upon the throne, and they bowed to him in prostration. And he said, "O my father, this is the explanation of my vision of before. My Lord has made it reality, and he was certainly good to me when he took me out of prison and brought you here from Bedouin life after Satan had induced estrangement between me and my brothers. Indeed, my Lord is subtle in what he wills. Indeed, it is he who is the knowing, the wise." And that passage is taken from Surah 12, verses 98 to 100. So that wraps up this episode about 10 surprising facts about Joseph in Islam. It's truly a fascinating story looking at the life, so we had to go in just dissect some very interesting facts and interesting points according to Islamic teachings. Now, I've said a lot in this episode. Now it's time for me to hear from you guys. Sound off down below in the comments section. And before I go, I'll leave you with a recommended episode. It's going to be at the end screen, so enjoy that one as well. And yeah, thanks to all you newcomers for stumbling on the channel. So do what you got to do, stay a while. And thanks to all you regulars who keep coming back, keep watching, keep liking the videos, and keep sharing them. It's always great hanging out with you guys. So I'll see you next time in another episode.